Thank you for turning to page 121. Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to touch on a book that I enjoy, Greyhawk Adventures by James M. Ward. This book has a lot in it. It's a lot to unpack. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and do some detail on it in a minute. Just as a quick background on it, when it came out in 1988, it was getting us ready for the transition to second edition. Second edition hadn't dropped yet, but it was in the wind, and we certainly knew about it from the pages of Dragon magazine. They floated plenty of stuff in Dragon. And this book kind of threw out some stuff pertaining to second edition, and it showed that second edition wasn't going to be all that different than first. Reading this book, it reads like a first edition book. So I'm going to go ahead and open her up, and we're going to take a look at a little bit inside and see why this book is still a worthy addition to your Greyhawk collection. Okay. All right, I've stopped at the table of contents. I just wanted to show a quick overview. This very nice dedication and intro by James Ward. James Ward, by the way, one of my favorite authors of D&D. Gamma World is wonderful. He's also Drummage, Jim Ward spelled backward. But very quality writer. I enjoyed that about this book. What I found lacking in this book, through no fault of his, is it didn't feel very Greyhawk. It didn't feel very Gygax. Gary had been out of the company for a few years by the time this was published, and I know they were trying to remove that flavor a little bit. Unfortunately, I think they removed it a little too far. I like my Greyhawk to feel Gygaxian. This book doesn't have a lot of that, but it's still a worthwhile addition. One of the main things I liked out of this, deities and clerics of Greyhawk. This is the first time we had a real good look at deities of Greyhawk, in addition to how they interacted with their clerics. So in here, it has a listing on Bocob, tells us about Bocob's avatar, and then we get Bocob's clerics. And Bocob's clerics, we get a spell peculiar to Bocob's clerics that they can take as whatever slot. So in this one, it's a level 6 spell, the Disc of Concordant Opposition. Here, we see Celestian, his clerics, can take the Meteors, 4th level spell. So it's kind of neat to have their own dedicated spells just for the clerics of certain deities. This goes on and covers a bunch of the other gods, including Ayuz. Good information on Ayuz and his clerics here, Neril. And then we get to the monsters. These are the monsters that are peculiar to Greyhawk. Beastmen, Cactus Vampire, all kinds of stuff. Keep in mind, Forgotten Realms was only about a year old, so prior to this, everything had been peculiar to Greyhawk. But that was changing, and that was changing in a hurry. Going to go through a few others. One disappointment I have in this book, recycled artwork. This I know is from WG5, and I'm not sure what that's from, but it's from a different supplement. Not all of the artwork, or even a ton of the artwork in this, was new. So, a little disappointing there. Here we get the Hall of Heroes. These are various NPCs wandering around Greyhawk, and how you can incorporate them into your campaign. So there's the Hall of Heroes, the Free City of Greyhawk, Naroth Ghazghkull, the Lord Mayor, his stats and information on him. We learned a lot about the oligarchs of Greyhawk in this one. More in a supplement to come, but at least this was something. We learned about a lot of NPCs in this. Very worthwhile addition. Now we come to this to the spells. The spells were interesting. They took the spells of the various named people, Mordekainen, Bigby, Otto, Atuluk, Tensor, and they made a bunch more spells based on those particular wizards' workings. And this makes some interesting spells. Bigby's, you get a lot of the hand spells. Here we have Bigby's Dexterous Digits. Otto's, we had a lot of music. Let's see, Bigby's Drummage, his Breath of Life, his Scent Mask, his Swift Mount. So, Mordekainen's Faithful Phantom Defenders, Mordekainen's Protection from Slime, Protection from Insects and Arachnids. A lot of useful spells came out of this book, and they saw immediate use in my campaign. A lot of these spells still see use at my table. We usually will use the Wizard Spell Compendium. I'll do a video on that in the future, rather than pull this book out. This book doesn't see a ton of tabletop use. I use it more to flesh out certain aspects of a game I'm running in Greyhawk, more than sitting at the table with us. And then we have magic items peculiar to Greyhawk. These were pretty neat. Some of these are the Admin Fort Ring of Leadership, where you use them actually in the area that they're listed for. These had some nice stuff to add some local flavor. I like the magic items in here. These also appear in the Magic Item Compendium. I've done a video on that. I think that video will drop a day or two before this one. So, you got the Rod of Onwall, the Skull Staff of Hepmonaland. As you're seeing, a lot of these are named for places. The Abyssalite Wand of Peace, the War Staff of Nyrond. And I was able to use these as MacGuffins to retrieve, for instance, the War Staff of Nyrond. I actually did a game where the group had to retrieve this for one of the nobles of Nyrond. It was a multi-part game. I did it years and years ago, and ended up being a lot of fun. They couldn't keep the magic item for themselves. They had to turn it over because that was part of their commission. But the party, succeeded and earned praise and all kinds of glory. There's just some good magic items in here. So I do use it for the magic items quite a bit. Here we have some swords. And then the Geography of Orth. This is where I found this book really shined. With the clerics being involved, there were a lot of information on that. But this gave some real nice in-depth look at the geography of Orth. Not something we had a lot of information on back in 1988. Again, this predates being able to Google something and find out details about it. So, the Pits of Azagzil, the Sea of Dust. Right about this time, we were reading Sea of Death by Gary Gygax, which gave information on the Sea of Death. So the Sea of Dust entry had a lot of interest from me. The Sinking Isle, the Twisted Forest. I've used a lot of these locations, whether as actual gaming locations or just name drop. Tovag Baragu, the Stone Circles. Think of Stonehenge with an attitude. Been used in a few modules. Notably, I use the earlier one. I forget that I use Lives. I don't remember. And then the last one is the Adventures in Greyhawk. These are adventure hooks, a la Dungeon Magazine, where you would get an adventure. It might be as little as half a page, might be as much as 2 or 3 pages. It would vary by level, and you could take player characters through the adventures in Greyhawk, and it had a nice Greyhawk flavor to it. Even though this book doesn't feel a ton like Gygax, it was the first book that gave us a non-Gygax look at Greyhawk, and it became the kind of the standard for what Greyhawk would feel like post-Gygax. And then finally we come down to 0 level characters. If you've ever really wanted to play something even weaker than a first level D&D character, here was your chance. Personally, I didn't use these rules. I read them over. I understood what they were going for. Really give you a great chance to build a character literally from the ground up. But I know my group would not go for it. I have a hard enough time getting them to start a new campaign. They all have many old characters they'd rather play. The idea of sitting down and telling my players, hey, we're going to start 0 level characters. No, I don't think that'll land. So that's a quick look at the book itself. There's the back. This is available on DriveThruRPG. It's a worthwhile edition. I'm not sure how much in here is necessary anymore, because this book is, 33 years old as of this taping. But beyond that, a lot of this stuff has been regurgitated in other places, like the Magic Spell Compendiums and the Magic Item Compendiums. But as far as the Greyhawk-centric stuff with the clerics and the geography, I do think this is a worthy addition. I do keep this on my shelf. I always know where this book is. And like I said, I refer to this more when I'm setting up a game as the DM and writing my notes than when I'm actually sitting at the gaming table. So that's it for today on page 121. If you have any questions or comments, please write them below. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121. Well, that closes the book on another episode of page 121. Please leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.